Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Minahan, and today is January 14, and we're beginning with Planet Buzz, which has now, as of this year, going on the second week of every month. And our whole topic is going to be Pluto in Aquarius. As of a week, it actually makes its official entry into Aquarius. However, I think many of us are feeling this tumultuous shift, just like the tide behind me that comes in and goes out, because there's some radical adjustments that I'm having to make, just that I'm accustomed to, that I'm not accustomed to. That's on a personal basis, but it's good to share that I think that has a lot to do with it. It's revolutionizing many procedures, and I'm welcoming it. It's just that I better catch up. Okay, with that said, I am now going to say we are ready for Planet Buzz.
Focusing on perspectives of pattern-planet cycle relationships and understanding their archetypal energy consciousness, reflecting through history, current events, mythology, and philosophical questions, these are the members of Planet Buzz.
I'm Sue Minahan, collaborating with guests weekly since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, workshop facilitator, and lecture speaker. I'm a Dwarf Planet University graduate, charter member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club. I have an AA degree and a fine arts music degree in jazz. I'm a certified color energy life coach, a writer, artist, musician, and ardent mythologist, a student of esoteric philosophies and life.
And I'm Dr. Laura Tan. I work as a spiritually oriented psychological astrologer with students and clients around the world. As a counselor, writer, and educator, I love helping people recognize their inner strengths, take advantage of auspicious moments, and navigate times of challenge with greater ease. On my own podcast, Mythic Sky Storytime, I discuss astrology, mythology, and actualizing our full potential. Learn more at mythicsky.com.
And as the ancient Hermetic Code reveals,
as below, so above. As above, so below.
Well, hi, Laura, and it's great to see you on the new year. I hope it's going, yeah?
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I know you have this.
As often in the new year, there's always a lot going on.
Well, isn't it the truth? In fact, I know you've got this retreat, and we do have a slide about it. And so next month is really going to be Aquarian, because I realize you won't be on Planet Buzz because you'll be coming back. We have a special with Jen Ning about the lunar in time, which I hope you'll be a special guest with Andrea Getz. So it's really, I'm thinking, as I try to organize these things, I feel like if Aquarius and Uranus are doing unexpected things, kind of throwing everything up into chaos to resettle, it's like I'm just trying to go with the flow. Is that your experience?
A little bit, but but I think that's what transition is. So we'll talk about some of that tonight. Or
yes, as a matter of fact, yeah. And I'm using this time, I must say, a little sneakily, and I will be transparent right now, because these slides I usually prepare progressively, but things adjusted. And so Laura does a talk once a month, and she prepared a bunch of slides. Well, I managed just before this program, like minutes right now, to put that together and upload it. So with that said, Nate, if we can have the slides. Okay. Because we have a special guest joining us, and I am so delighted. Israel Ajose of England is returning. Yes, hi.
Great to be here. good evening and Happy New Year.
That is the truth. It is absolute. Now, your website is Sacred Planets because a lot of Israel's whole focus in joys and wonderfully in the cosmology, mythology, occult sciences, Kabbalah, which I too really love to investigate, shamanism and divination. But you are a consultant, a teacher of astrology, tarot, philosophical, esoteric teachings, and you wonderfully combine, which is a challenging thing, but very valuable, the traditional medieval, psychological, and Vedic, which is the East Indian astrologies. So people can get a hold of you at Astrology of the Soul at Gmail. And are you still studying and completing your full honors, or have you completed that?
Oh, I've done all that.
I thought so.
Doesn't sound completed. I suppose with astrology, you're always studying. It never ends. It's always, it's always ongoing. So it's quite interesting when I tell people I'm still studying. They're like, "What? No, surely not." I'm like, "Oh yeah, like."
I know. You know, my father was a physician. And he told me as a child, now don't tell people, he's long past, and his patients loved him. So I'll preface it that way. But before every operation, he would review to make sure that he knew everything. So
right.
It is. Well, Dr. Laura Tad is my ongoing member for years now, and I'm so grateful. And again, I will say that I'm giving her credit for the massive charts that we will explore. And Laura is a spiritually oriented psychological astrologer. And of course, we have our automated recordings, but here you can get some of that information. And she is going to be co-facilitating a Goddess Awakening retreat. And there will be more information about that. And she has a podcast, Mythic Sky Story Time. So check this if you have a chance. So there, credit to Dr. Laura. Thank you so much. And myself, I do this every week, and it's quite an education. I'm learning so much. Here we are, Pluto, the depth of soul transformation. I don't know if we want to explore just that concept of how it's hungry.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much that we could talk about. I mean, this is the second or third show we've done on Pluto in the last year. So there's always more to unpack and go deeper with. But I think for today, really looking at this upcoming ingress is going to be a lot of what we're looking at, and how personally and globally, right, that this transformation that we're on this threshold of, right? It's about
thank
to
you. And
step over.
You've inspired me to comment, and then Israel, and the fact that Pluto was in Capricorn, which is an earth base. And so we had an idea of structure and form and steps that were concrete that we could put on a vision board and connect. But subtly, this is a connective, innovative, intuitive with Aquarius, where just like today with my slideshows, we managed to find them unexpectedly. Israel, should we go to the next, or did you want to? Okay. We're in thresholds, and this is really, go ahead.
Yeah,
the focus of
No, I was just going to, No, I was just going to say about the, again, Pluto moving from the earth into the air, where it's more, air is always associated with the rationale, with thinking, with ideas. And we know that Aquarius, again, just like you said, it's innovative, it's progressive, it's humanitarian orientated. Aquarius has always been linked with humanity. So with Pluto moving into Aquarius, we're about to see a very powerful, profound transformation and change within the psyche of humanity. So yeah.
I love this, both of you. Absolutely. It's that threshold. Yep.
Yes.
Well, and that threshold, that liminal space, right, where you transition. I think about it sometimes a little bit like, and this is going down a little bit of an astrology rabbit hole, but moon void, of course, And one of the best descriptions I've heard of a void moon was when driving through the tunnel from New York to New Jersey. Because when you get in the tunnel, you've left New York, but you've not entered New Jersey yet, right? It's that liminal space, right? Or maybe the channel, right, from England to France, right? You've left England, you haven't entered France yet, right? But it's this in-between space where you're sort of nowhere. Or I'm going to be running a retreat in Nicaragua in a month, and I fly into Costa Rica. And to get to Nicaragua from Costa Rica, you have to walk the equivalent of about 2 blocks of no man's land that is neither Nicaragua or Costa Rica. You exit Costa Rican customs, have to walk 2 blocks, and then enter Nicaraguan customs. And that's that liminal space.
Yeah, there's many
Yeah.
cities that are uncharted, and that, in a sense, nobody will take ownership. But it also reminds me of Mercury with the cusp of twilight. And this particular picture is Janus, which was one of the patrons of Rome, because it looked forwards and backwards, a lot like retrograde Israel.
I was just looking at I currently just last month I sent out a newsletter, and to people who I send newsletters to, and I put this very similar image of Janus, just reminding, because Janus was also seen as it was a deity that was acknowledged at that time of the end of the year and the beginning of the next new year. So there was something that one of the faces is said to be looking at the past, and one is looking at the future, so to speak. But there is again that liminal space, that threshold, that boundary. And again, when we speak about boundaries as well, Saturn has a lot to do with that. When we speak about outer planets and inner planets, Saturn seems to be the planet that holds that space, that any planet beyond the realm of Saturn we can't really see with the naked eye. We need a telescope to be able to see it. So he represents boundaries in that sense also as well. So it's quite interesting. Is the gatekeeper, the thresholds.
And interestingly, always Saturn can see beyond. It's been brought to my attention, whereas we only see it there. And and for our audience, many of us know, but that traditionally, therefore, Saturn ruled both Aquarius and
that's right,
Saturn, Capricorn. However, now, of course, with
Uranus,
since the 1700s, when Uranus was discovered by William Herschel, officially, it now is ruling Aquarius, which really goes along with the revolution, with the French Revolution in the United States.
Yeah.
So Hades, Pluto, and for an audience too, for those that there's the Greek and the Roman names, because the Romans assumed all the, and of course I'm in good company. Both Laura and Israel are real mythologists like me. So, but we know that Hades or Pluto is the god of the underworld, and it has to do about that metamorphosis and transmutive qualities. It's for soul growth, and it's one of 3 brothers.
Yeah, and Pluto represents that archetype that things that are buried deep beneath us. It's quite interesting. Pluto was he was one of Saturn's children, of Kronos's children, and we know that Kronos ate his children in order so that he wouldn't be dethroned. And Pluto was the first one he ate. So Pluto was actually in the stomach. He was in the belly more longer, and than any of the other ones, which Kronos also ate as well. So this tells us something about Pluto and about Pluto's world and about him occupying that the deep subterranean. So the part of us also as well, part of our consciousness, part of our, if we want to say spirit for better words, that subconscious part of us, the part of us which is deep beneath things that we can't even begin even to imagine or because things are buried there, things may seem to be lost or seem to be dead, and Pluto has this way of bringing them up, things which we thought were hidden or didn't even exist, or we weren't fully conscious or aware of them, that have been deep, that have been there for years, even perhaps they've been there before even we were even born as physical people. They've been there in the family, in the generation, amongst the culture, amongst the groups. And Pluto has this way of just digging it up and saying, hey, this hasn't been dealt with, this needs to be dealt with, this needs to be taken apart, and it needs to be transformed and metamorphosized. He's a very, very important archetype indeed in terms of who we are.
Yeah, well, and it makes me think that in some ways, like even thinking about the enormity of what we don't know about ourselves, right? In Pluto is almost, for lack of a better word, it's like he just dated longer, almost. Right. So there was this building of more and more and more unconsciousness that happened when he's in the stomach of Kronos.
Right.
And so there's more depth, there's more space almost that he occupies that we're not even aware of, that there's always more to unpack and unearth. And that's why I've always found like Pluto transits to the moon almost always land people in therapy, because you're like, I've got to go process this stuff that I thought I processed through, and it unearths and unpacks some of the origin of things and helps you that transform and transmute that, which is part of Pluto's realm as well.
Right.
And Pluto's, personally and globally, it's a really important archetype. And I think I've always felt like the astronomer's demotion of Pluto has a lot to do with our culture's inability to look at these things comfortably. We don't like to look at death. We don't like to look at the unconscious.
Yeah. I will add quickly that in my study of dwarf planets, my own thought, and it's been supported with learning about Eris and the Haumea and Makemake and Quorar and on, this group of dwarf planets, that Pluto now has a tribe. Pluto is the leader of this metamorphosis, but they are in different capacities because these dwarf planets seem to incorporate many transformational elements within us. When you start plotting the transits that dwarf planet might make to our chart or any chart, or our Pluto to that dwarf planet. So in some ways, you're right, Laura. I agree with you that in our mentality, we seem to diminish it. However, in just like Pluto, it has its hidden cap on. It's hiding its real power. It has power. It's most exciting.
And just to also add to what Laura said there as well, is that the idea of then again demoting or diminishing, again, we see that also in the story of where obviously his brother Zeus and Neptune, Zeus takes the he's the sky god, Neptune takes the oceans, and it's like, Pluto, you have what is beneath the surface, and there is that kind of demoting kind of, you take what's beneath there because nobody else wants it kind of thing, and it's down in the dirt and it's underneath the ground and it's somewhere dark, and so there is this something about with Pluto that again this is why the idea of rejection or that which we reject, that which we suppress,
or manipulated, you could say, because I had not thought of it in those terms. But that is a big part, or betrayal of these. There's always shadow sides to everything.
Exactly. That's which we alienate. We alienate it. We betray it. We deny it. We remove it. We can see that it's a part of his story. There's something inherent in him that is connected to that, and that's why sometimes a lot of people don't know how to kind of respond to the Pluto transits now and again. But again, he's trying to say, It's time for that change. It's time to transform. It's trying to
And immediately just shows the light to it, because as I
Yeah.
think you've both indicated,
yeah.
these elements that no longer are supporting our growth, they're out of here. It's
Yeah.
like this glacier that's moving on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. Now I'm beginning with the slides that Laura prepared. And I know, Laura, you had additional, but in my transference, I may have lost them. But
Well, I think it was the other ones where I have some stuff where things happened in other points in
Right.
history. But so just this is all on the 20th, and I think that's true in UK too. I think it may some of it end up being the 21st in terms of time zone.
Right.
But that we get this the 20th is a super intense day, right? So we get at 8:45 a.m. here, and I'm on the East Coast, so this is set for Georgia. Is the Sun-Pluto conjunction. This will be the last Sun-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn any of us will ever experience.
Yes, exactly.
Right? That even though Pluto dips back into Capricorn later this year, the Sun will be nowhere near it, right? So
Exactly.
this is the very
it'll be
last.
September and November,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
October when.
So that we get that, and then if you want to do the next slide, so that's at 8:45 a.m.
Yeah.
Literally 20 minutes later at 9:07, the Sun ingresses into Aquarius.
Right.
Oh,
Right,
that's like
and
an
then-
hour, not even an hour later.
No,
It's just
it's 15 minutes. It's 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
it's like suddenly they got regurgitated.
Yes.
Right. And so this Sun Pluto, right, is this intense transformative energy of the self. And then we're already different immediately.
Yeah.
Right? The Sun
It's like something is
ingresses-
shattered. Something is broken
has been
forth.
changed. The Sun is
Yes.
now embodying this Aquarian archetype
Yes.
immediately.
Which is so interesting because look in the first house for the East Coast anyway. And again, folks, as we know, wherever you live, it's going to be quite different.
Right.
And
Yeah.
from the East Coast, London is 5 hours earlier.
Right.
So meaning that would be about 2.5 signs. So it might be, come to think of it, now I'm trying to think if it goes forwards or backwards. I don't know if it would be in the
Oh no,
11th.
yeah, UK, we're ahead.
Yeah, you're ahead.
We're
So
5 hours.
therefore, it would probably be down in the 3rd house.
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would still be the same house. You're just changing the ascendant.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, then look at that. Saturn is in the 1st house. I think that's interesting, looking at the fact that Saturn is not really the
Yeah.
ultimate ruler of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, the whole thing is pivoting, right?
Yeah.
So, because it'll be more like
Because the ascendant will change
Taurus or
depending on
Gemini
the
rising.
location. Right. Yeah.
in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so the house placement's gonna vary depending on where people are.
Yeah.
But it's this quick succession, right? Conjunction, Sun ingresses, and then about 10 hours later, the next slide, Sue,
Which is
Pluto's ingress.
then Pluto ingresses. That's right.
Oh, I see. So they
Right, so it's
match
all-
together in Capricorn. The sun leaves and then Pluto comes in.
Yeah.
About
Wait.
10 hours later.
Yeah.
Half
It's
an
almost
hour
like
later.
it's almost like the sun goes in and says, "I'm gonna open up the door. I'm gonna prepare the way or something. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna shine the light.
Show the light.
Come in now, Pluto.
That's
come
very
and do your thing." Yeah.
symbolic, isn't
Yeah.
it? Since we were
Yeah.
talking about this depth and knowing that the whole idea of Pluto is it shines that light down below because it finds a treasure
Exactly.
down below. There are treasures, as we know. There's gems. in the
Exactly.
earth,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we may have to dust them
and
off.
there's this tracking too. So we could jump back to a couple slides. The first one, Sue,
Yeah.
the Sun
okay.
Pluto. Just so right. So we get an exact trine to the moon,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
right?
So down
The
here.
moon will be 29, almost to the degree, right? They're
Yeah.
6 minutes.
course.
In Earth. Both of them in
Yeah.
Earth.
In Earth. Yes.
And that sort of holds, right? Even though the moon is moving really quickly, we still have that through the ingresses, right? The moon jumps into
Right.
Gemini. We're still having that when the sun goes in.
Yeah.
And by the time Pluto goes in, the moon's at 5. But
Oh, yeah.
we
In
often do
Gemini.
a pretty
Yeah.
big orb. So part of this transition
it's hard to imagine it's not going to be unearthing emotional stuff, because
Right, yeah.
the moon is such a key figure in this.
It is the
Right.
past. It's reflecting that light from the past. It's
Yeah.
how we build our habits. It's
Yeah.
our story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is heartening. You know, you think about it for the United States, there, and okay, I won't go there too much. But at any rate, but here we have you, Israel,
Yeah.
representing England, and we're the United States.
Yeah.
It's like bridging the gaps of common mental minds
Yeah.
globally.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel this particular transit or ingress is very important. I mean, I know sometimes it can be seeming to be unfair to look at a country as the leader of the world, but let's face it. I mean, the whole world on some level does tend to look at America as the leader of the free world, as they say, or the Western world. So we can't deny that they definitely have a huge presence. And I think this particular ingress is quite important because it's on the 20th of January. And on the 20th of January, every 4 years is when you guys inaugurate your new presidents. So that is the degree where the sun is approximately when they, now I know that now another thing which is quite interesting this year is that we've got 58 countries, something which has barely happened in the history, or definitely in our history, where 58 countries are going to the polls. So we're going to be seeing huge government shifts, and it's all the big players as well.
That's
so
right.
America's going to the polls,
Canada,
UK, Russia. It's all of the big guys. It's all of the big guns. They're all going to the polls. But again, the eyes are always on America. American politics is always, the world is always watching who's going to be the next president. So I feel this Sun-Pluto conjunction ingressing pretty much the same time, going into Aquarius, which is literally on the day when you guys inaugurate your next president, which will be next year, of course. Of course, your elections are in November, but it's telling us something.
Yes,
but that November date is part of this story,
right?
Because the next time it ingresses after the retrograde this year is a week after the election.
Wow.
Well, I guess hang on to your seats.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, right there. I've got the dates later. It's like it lines up with the election.
It lines up,
that's absolutely part of this.
Yeah.
Now, Laura, should we go? It's
sure,
usually
I've got a bunch of slides. So yeah, we can take I think it's good to take a break, and then we can look at some other stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, folks. Stay with us. We'll just be right back with Israel Ajose and Dr. Laura Tad. Planet Buzz. Pluto is trudging up. It's happening. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, the furthest visible planet by the eye. By leaving a cycle based on meaningfulness and truth, Capricorn's energy establishes social boundaries in a structure incorporating rules, authority, and ethics. As a cardinal earth sign depicted by a sea goat climbing from the sea up to the top of a mountain, Capricorn overcomes fears through goals and ambitions to achieve mastery.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Dr. Nels Rasmussen at healingministryforanimals.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and Talk with Your Animals or Human Loved Ones on this side or the other, and Personal Awareness Coaching with Natasha Venter. Hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us or for a personal reading with Natasha. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Bringing good vibes to the Puget Sound and the world. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, we are back again, and this is Planet Husband, Pluto, and Aquarius Thresholds. And always at this particular point, I come up with whoops, wrong one. Let's see. How am I going to get back there? There is Laura. I know you have this happening, the Goddess Awakening Retreat. You want to?
Yeah, so it's a little less under a month away. And I run this with a dear friend of mine I've known since we were kids, practically. We were like 20 when we were roommates. And it is on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua. And it'll be a combination. There'll be yoga, and I'll be doing some astrology and meditation and working with personal myth. And particularly with this retreat, I'm going to do some work with Hecate, which is in line with this particular our topic tonight, because she is a goddess of thresholds. And so the 10th through the 17th of February, right on the beach in Nicaragua. You can see Costa Rica from the beach. We stay right by a turtle sanctuary, so you get to see baby turtles run into the sea.
Great.
And it's a really magical, beautiful place.
By Laura at mythicsky.com, or just go to Mythic Sky. I know you have it on there, and then people can click this here.
Yeah, and get there.
I'm trying to get back to Israel.
No, well, so this is a good.
I'm trying to get back. Israel. I know you have sacredplanets.co.uk for those folks. In fact, I wish I made this a little bigger. Do you have a class coming up or something important? I know.
Oh, I got tons of classes coming up. So overwhelmed. Even starting, they're going to be starting from this weekend coming. So on Friday, on Saturday and Sunday, the 20th and the 21st, I have a tarot workshop. It's going to be on both days. They're taking place at 1:30 p.m. UK time. And it's for beginners and intermediates also as well. So both are welcome. And starting also from next week, the following Wednesday on the 18th, I will be starting again astrology classes for beginners, intermediate, and advanced. So they're all there. Details are all there on the website. Still needs a bit of brushing up, but everything's there. And
beautiful.
If people want to sign up and make payments, and good to go for the new term. So
Okay. And then also, so wonderful. So folks, Israel Ajose is sacredplanets.co.uk, and Laura Tad is mythicsky.com. And Laura also has a podcast that she does. So it's most exciting. Let's see where we were at then.
So
and thank you.
Yeah. So if you go to this slide, if you want to go after, go. There's, because this is
backwards,
back to
forward.
Forward. We were.
Forward.
I had a couple more. So these are just some of the historic. I've got a moon in Virgo in the 9th. So I'm a nerd. Love it.
We love it. We love it. I do. Yeah.
And I always find, even though obviously it's very different, none of the other planets are in the exact same space, and the world's very different than it was 250 years ago. But just to look at historically some of the things that have happened throughout history with Pluto and Aquarius, right? So the most recent stint was 1777 through 1798. Which is when the U.S. Constitution was ratified. It was the French Revolution, founding of the U.S. Stock Exchange. I thought it was interesting, given what Uranus is about, is also the invention of gaslighting happens
Right,
during
yeah.
this period. Which Uranus, one of the things that Aquarius governs that we give to Uranus, right, is that invention energy. It's also often archetypally linked with Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, right? So gaslighting is that in many ways. So that seemed like an interesting parallel. The previous one in the 1500s in the UK was King Henry VIII marries Anne Boleyn, all of his other wives, and the rest of his life. Like all happened under Pluto and Aquarius. The founding of the Church of England happens under Pluto and Aquarius. So that was. Sue, I think you're muted.
We can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, it's separating from the Catholic Church, creating an entire new paradigm. That's it.
Yeah.
Because Christianity had been one focus. Now there's Protestant and Catholicism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get Copernicus writing what ends up being, the writing that leads us to the Western world to say, we live in a sun-centered universe. Talk about revolutionizing.
Yeah.
It's seismic. It's hard for us to really
the sun going around us, we go around the sun.
Exactly.
The tectonic shift that was.
Yeah.
I might say it clarifies the shift again from just the pyramid idea of being on top to this collective unity network, because having a solar system where all the planets are rotating around the sun is like we're part of a team rather than we are the center with everything navigating like a CEO.
Yeah.
And so again, and this Marco Polo in his, which is what brings the Europe's consciousness of Asia, at least in documentation, right? So this revolutionary perspective, and that led to the printing press, which,
That's right. Yeah.
Which is the only reason that Henry VIII had literature to read that led to the Protestant Revolution, right? So because he was reading Luther's work, and if there wasn't the printing press, that wouldn't have happened. And then we get revolution, right? We get Scots fighting for independence from England, and William Wallace or Braveheart, for those who only know Scottish history through movies, right? So, So again, this revolutionary energy, and that being part of what we are headed into. It doesn't have to be war. It's revolutionizing, sort of what you were bringing up, Israel, with all of these governments coinciding, having elections could revolutionize the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so these are just the most for this particular cycle, right? That's what I was saying, right? It's back into Aquarius, November 19th.
Laura, I think tagging on to what you were saying and emphasizing the both with Israel too is that it's mental. This combative shift. I mean, if it is combative, it's ideally more in a mental orientation. I mean, of course, it can involve many physical terms, but the focus is, thinking of the mental.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was just right. So it goes into Aquarius on the 20th, back into Capricorn on September 2nd, and back into Aquarius November 19th, right? So again, literally 10 days after our election.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It'll be 2 whole months that it'll be at the very tail end of Capricorn. Just as a
Yeah. And what date is the US? I know it's in November. Is it the first
Tuesday of November always?
It's
always not a specific date. It's the first Tuesday.
A Tuesday. That's right. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, I thought it was Thursday.
It's about the 10th, and I have a calendar right here. It happens to be the 12th. It'll be the 12th.
Second. I'm sorry, second Tuesday. Yeah, second.
Second Tuesday.
12th.
Okay, so second Tuesday of every November. Okay, right. Cool.
So immediately the next day.
Yeah, so a week later, right? Yeah, so the 12th. So
wow.
Actually, no, I was looking at October, so it'll be November.
Yeah, so it's a week later that it
moves back into
So we're voting during that when it's
exactly
about to change.
And meaning that really the whole world, as you were bringing up Israel too, and we've
Yes.
brought so many leadership changes, which
Yeah.
again is indicative
Yeah.
of this shift of Aquarian that is
Yeah.
looking at the collective as a teamwork of individuals for a like-minded cause and or purpose, and that can be the struggle, and to elevate from this more structured administrative idea of Capricorn, where you have authority, where one person is ruling, which could be more like a kingship, which all of us are progressively leaving.
All right. So then the next set of charts I've got, so this is the Aquarius. Shortly, right, Pluto gets into Aquarius. 5 days later, we get the new moon in Aquarius.
Yes, it starts
right.
next.
So we get this in the first 30 days that Pluto is in Aquarius. We have this domino effect of Aquarius going on.
Yeah.
Right. Sort of. So Pluto and the Sun ingress. We then get the full moon. So we don't need to go into all of this. Maybe just quickly go through the charts and then we can talk about it.
So maybe we'll pause here. Thank you very much. Because I was so glad you noticed the transits, because as you had indicated last year in March, when Pluto first ingressed, Pluto didn't connect with any of the personal planets. But this time, all the personal planets are shifting from Capricorn to 0 degrees. And as we know, one of the reasons we have a threshold, as we're calling it, is that Pluto's so slow, is really staying at this cusp. You know, there's 30 degrees in a sign. It's very close to 0. It goes back to 29. It really is in this liminal space. So it is connecting this month with all the personal planets.
Well, it'll be February when it's with all of them.
Okay, in February. We're looking ahead. Once again with Aquarius, looking ahead. Yeah.
Well, and it takes us pretty much to the next planet buzz. So that's part of that too.
Meaning
so if you want to click through,
Sue. Okay. Oops. Oh yeah, and I wasn't sure where we.
Okay. So then the 5th, we get Mercury ingressing.
Right.
Right. And if you want to just we can go back. So if you want to just click through.
Okay. Yeah.
So then the 9th, we get Mars. We get the Sun. We get the new moon in Aquarius.
Yeah. Well, we get the moon conjunct first, is what you were saying.
Yeah.
So in other words,
so full moon. We get a full moon in Leo.
Right, on the 25th. Yeah, so that's on the 25th, I believe,
on the 25th. And then a few days later, Mercury is conjunct Pluto. And then a few days after that, we get the new moon in Aquarius.
Aquarius, right.
And then a few days after that, we get Mars into Aquarius.
Mars moving in.
And a few days after that, Venus moves in.
Venus moves in.
Right, so on the 16th, we've got Venus, Pluto, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun all in Aquarius.
Right. All in Aquarius, which kind of reminds me of there was a period, I can't remember, but I know it was definitely in the 60s where we had that conjunction of about 6 or 7 planets all in Aquarius, where a lot of people were pointing towards that was the sign of entering the age of Aquarius and stuff, and that was in the 60s. I remember one of my students was actually born during that period, and she had like 6 or 7 planets all in Aquarius, and this is kind of it's bringing back that that
sure.
I wasn't born then, but it's so we get this huge Aquarius energy. That's
and it's
quite
just
remarkable.
And as they all ingress, every single one will conjunct Pluto.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They all hit the Pluto. Yes.
Right.
And
go ahead, Sue.
Well, no, what's valuable, and I was going to ask if we could just put the slides away for a moment, Nate.
Sure.
Maybe while we just chat, and then we'll bring them up. It's easier just to chat here for a second. I love this back and forth. Is that I really love this factor because we are integrating. It helps these little plateaus help us, the consciousness of looking at our mental ideas, and then of our activity with Mars, or our value system at the end, or emotional with the moon. There's all these elements that naturally we use with life, but having Pluto that's shifting, because this 0 degrees goes right back to when the grand conjunction was for folks, was back in December 21st, or 20th, 21st in 2020, just,
Yes.
in the middle of COVID there, where it was a 200 year cycle, because every 20 years, Jupiter and Saturn connect in a sign, and we're shifting from Earth then in Capricorn, Earth signs for 200 years to air. So it's like a marker. It's stating the claim and helping us internalize some of these issues before we start. I hope. Am I being too Pollyanna? Anyway,
no, definitely, no. I was actually going to mention that 0 degrees of Aquarius is a very sensitive degree, because that's where the last Jupiter Saturn conjunction took place. So it's a very, very sensitive degree, and we're seeing a lot of action after Sun and Pluto move in, and then as Laura's pointed out, all of the other planets one by one, the personal planets especially, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all of those inner planets all start making their appearance there also. It's almost like they're all passing through and making their allegiance in some way.
To say, hey, let's get on board if you haven't.
Exactly.
And I do think we had talked about this briefly on the phone, so I think that's one of the things that makes this ingress very unique to the one that happened last year, because Pluto did dip a toe into Aquarius last year, but none of this personal planet conjunctions happened.
It was more of a global thing where we did begin this idea of, well, there was AI, which is still going to be, but now we're beginning to incorporate these, and how does that adjust our personal lives? And, interestingly, I had 2 readings yesterday with 2 people that were of near the 0 degrees of Pluto in Libra. And both of them indicated, and I'm saying this because they're both air signs. It's a whole generation, as we know, from about 1970 until 1983, 84. And they felt like this was this rebirth in their own lives. But they both said that very strongly. And I thought, of course, there's this harmonious flow between, and we're on that liminal cusp. We feel things, and it's how to adjust, but it's one of the factors. So we really are entering this new terrain from many levels. Well, looking back at the 200-year conjunction of air consciousness connections, and then now 20-year cycle of Pluto going to be in Aquarius, that we're trying to figure out how it works with ourselves.
I mean, I think that is part of this entry with all of this just domino of personal planets, right? So transforming how we think, what we feel, what we value, how we act, all of that going through revolution and innovation, and in that liminal space, because 0 degrees in itself has a bit of that liminality to it.
Very pioneering.
That I think
the unknown.
And what we may find is that we don't actually come up with a lot of answers this year. That it may be more it's unearthed. Pluto's bringing it to the surface of, we have to change how we think. We have to change how we communicate. We have to change the actions that we take, but we don't yet have anything to replace it with. And it may be not until 2025 that we have the replacement actions or words or values. It's more in that amorphous gestational period we may find ourselves, or in the chrysalis phase, right? The caterpillar hasn't yet been rebirthed, right? And what happens to it's not, caterpillars don't simply grow wings, right? They completely
dissolve
in becoming a butterfly. And so we're in that chrysalis dissolving. We're moving into that as we get further into.
And Saturn's helping, really, being in Pisces, which hasn't boundaries by its definition.
And I think we can respond to it in two ways, right? We can respond to it out of fear of like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't have anything to replace this thing that's disappearing. Or
Well, that is
really
perhaps
lean
the
into
first. That's what we've been trained in our conditioning. I think it's a
But-
deconditioning.
yeah, and leaning into the Aquarius part of one of the ways Aquarius can manifest is we get to invent. We get to be innovative. It could be anything. We get a blank canvas. What do you want it to be? It doesn't have to fit the old way. That's Capricorn. We're almost done with the old.
Yes, yes.
And I know,
and being excited about the potentiality as opposed to, I just wish there was a rubric I could follow.
Yeah.
well, that's it. I know, Israel, you're thinking like crazy, and I just wanna add one thing. But what I wanted to add is that from looking at concrete with Earth, we're moving into intuitiveness, because Aquarian is very intuitive. You could look at it like just Aquarius when Uranus has that flash of lightning and we see everything and we get that brainstorm. But it is a whole nother technique, just like having this slideshow of working with a new style, I'm thinking. And I want to ask.
And I feel like, again, with the Aquarius, again, it's air. So again, a lot of it's about information, innovation, where we see, technology. I'm, the whole idea with the whole cashless system, AI, for example. I think this is where we're really going to be seeing technology and innovative sciences really be revolutionized and moving into a whole different new world.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Laura, did we have more slides? Should we go back to the slides?
So
we have
the only thing that I had done is, because this didn't happen the last time, last year in 2023 when Pluto ingressed, I had to go back to the 1700s to find personal planets conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. So those slides did have some historical events.
Can we have them back again, please?
So if you want to go, we could go in reverse order. That's fine. So this is the Mars, or out of order. So
we only have
one more would be the Mercury.
Okay.
So when the last time Mercury was conjunct Pluto in, no, that's still the Mars. Oh, this is Mars. You went the wrong way, I think.
There we go. Which way? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So this is February 5th. This is the Mercury ingress. And the last time Mercury and Pluto were conjunct in Aquarius was 1797. And it turned out to be almost within a week, which is interesting that we get this theme with the election this year, because it was the 16th of March, and on the 4th of March that year was the end of George Washington's presidency, and John Adams was sworn in as president.
Oh,
amazing. Well, we'll go. That is
and almost exact. Other, that's just the new moon, so I didn't look up a new moon because we get that every month. So the Mars ingress, the last time that happened is again 1700s, 1796. Albany replaces New York as the capital of the state within about a month later. And that same year in Britain began the first prisoner of war camp on record. And that's with the Mars ingressing, Mars-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. And so that seemed really interesting to me, of just the Mars archetype and the Pluto archetype, and that idea of the weird,
before Pluto was discovered, right? Mars was.
But the weird, almost like humanitarian way of being at war that is, right? It's, you're my enemy, I'm not going to kill you, I'll just put you in prison. Is a really interesting manifestation.
More brotherhood like. Yeah.
It's like, which is in some ways more of that community Aquarian energy.
And torture came in, so I'm not sure how friendly that was.
But it's still, that's very different than, I mean, Aquarius can be trauma, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was reading about the Trojan War, because I'm reading the Odyssey with Jason Hawley. And when the Trojans there were 3 ways they could have done it. They could have either just hacked it to pieces, or they could have dumped it over the side, or they could have honored it and said this was a gift. But there are choices. That's so true.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you a million.
Yeah, so the Venus, we lost that slide, but an interesting tie with Goya, which then circles back to what you were talking about with Saturn. Is one of Goya's most famous paintings is Saturn eating his children.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We're full circle. Wow.
And Goya's Witch's Sabbath was painted almost exactly on the day of the Venus-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius.
Great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You couldn't make it up if you tried.
No. And so we're working with the universe on this one. Aquarius is going to really lead us in new scripts. Thank you 1,000%. We love you, and we'll be back again. Thank you, Israel Ajose and Dr. Laura Tad.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.